Welcome, welcome. Hello again. How are you doing in your struggle? How am I doing in my struggle as free-minded individuals that have escaped cult mind control? Well, I'm doing very good, thank you very much. I am happy because I'm off of work for the next few days. I'm going to have some quality time with my children. We are going to go to the movies. We are going to do lots of fun things, and that gets me happy. That gets me very happy. Now, unfortunately, the stuff that I'm going to continue talking about was not such happy times, but as you know and as I know, it's important to understand this stuff. It's important to just get it out and to lay it out so people can know more about what it was like to be a clergyman for the Jehovah's Witness movement. Yes, it's true. I was a Jehovah's Witness clergy member, what they call an elder, for about 10 years. Ministerial servant for another 10 years in a couple of pieces. Anyways, now last time was Elder Recollections number 3. I wanted to call this 3B. Because it's a continuation in some kind of another angle of it, though. And so I realized, what it is, and it's part 4. So last time I talked about how the elders had to, sort out this mess with all these youth. About a dozen or so of the young ones got involved in the naughty stuff. And then we felt it was our duty from Jehovah to break it up and to, sort it out and to kick out the bad ones and all of that. So that's what we did. Now, in this part, I would like to ask and answer, and just ruminate on the question, are Jehovah's Witness elders perverted? Are some of them perving out with the intimate questions and the intimate details that they ask? Last time I was talking about, is it uncleanness, is it loose conduct, or is it full-blown fornication? And they have to lay it out in 3 levels, of badness, which is just, and I know how ridiculous it is, but that's what they do. They've done the same thing with pornography a couple years ago. They came out with a letter to the bodies of elders. I believe it was a letter April of 2012, where they came out and talked about degrees with pornography. And now when a poor young man or woman in the congregation admits that they have looked at porn, the elders can't just pray with them and pat them on the back and say, it's okay, try to do better, we're rooting for you. No, they can't just give a consolation. They have to find out what kind of porn that you watched. They have to find out the degree of badness, and then they have to punish you to the proper degree. I brought that up in my in my Judicial committee hearing with the elders a couple of years ago. Those of you that have watched it, you might remember that point. And of course, they had no answers for me when I said, don't you think it's ridiculous that you have to find out what kind of porn, and then you have to discipline them differently depending on whether it's a good kind of porn or a better kind or a worse kind of porn. So it was a little bit, I guess it's in the same vein, because when you would question these people, there was at least 2 times when the elders were questioning someone about, sexual matters, dalliances, and they were asking way too many questions for me. And in one instance, I stepped in and I put a stop to it because it was just gross. And now, let me see here. The first story that I can share with you was one of the individuals in that dozen young people that were all fooling around. Now, this gal was about, I think she was 20 or 21. So she was still young. She wasn't a teen. She was one of the ones that, we had this Judicial committee meeting with. And this was with a senior elder by the name of Fred. Now, Fred Fred's story is interesting too. He later ended up dropping out and fading out. And you know what? I don't know where or what ended up with him, but I hope that he did some online studying and research and just got out because he realized the whole religion's a sham. It's just a front for Watchtower. But I don't know that. I suspect and I hope that perhaps that's what the case was. At any rate, Fred did something really, really bizarre to me, and also to Ronnie, the other elder. Ronnie and I and Fred, and the three of us, we meet with this young lady. She admits to, fooling around and this and that. And somehow he had gotten wind that her and some of the other young sisters had taken sexy pictures together. They had taken racy pictures. I knew nothing about this. I don't know how, he found out about it. And he asks her, so were you and so-and-so and so-and-so taking pictures of one another? And she gets embarrassed, of course, and says, well, yeah, we were taking pictures. And he says, well, you understand that these are dangerous pictures to have floating around. We're going to have to get those pictures from you. And, I mean, she just went, like, stiff as a board. And you could have heard a pin drop. And I was, like, looking at Ron going, what? And he goes, yeah, can you go get those pictures, please? And then it was like this tense silence. It was like 1,000, 2, 1,000. And then she, like, started to cry a little bit. And she goes, okay. And she gets up, robot-like, because she wanted to go against her programming, but of course she can't go against her programming, especially not when she's talking to three elders. Oh my goodness, if you lie to them, it's like lying to Jehovah. If you disobey them in a judicial committee meeting, it's like disobeying Jehovah, right? That's the way the indoctrination goes. So she gets up and kind of stiffly walks into the other room. We were at her house, yeah, so you must have gone into her bedroom or closet or whatever. She comes out with an envelope with pictures, 3x5 pictures. And so she hands them to Fred, sits down, and just puts her head down. I mean, she just put her head down. It was such a sad little gesture. Talk about the height of embarrassment and humiliation. And so he takes the pictures and he slips them into his giant, huge elder bag and then says, we're going to have to destroy these. And this is to protect the other young women and to protect you so that they don't fall into the wrong hands. And she just went, okay, and shrugged her shoulders. And I silently did the same thing. I just kind of shrugged my shoulders because I thought, this is bizarre. It just, because, I wonder if Fred was going to take a little peeky-weeky when he got home at those pictures. It was just weird. So that I remember seeing, and then, then the meeting went on, with the girl. But I remember that being such a bizarre, to me, it was bizarre situation. That, again, that this little, kind of warning bell was going off in my mind. This is weird. This is not, we shouldn't be doing this, was what I was thinking. And I'm thinking, I've got a wife at home. I'd rather be with my wife. I've got little children. They're little bitties at that time. I would rather be anywhere but there doing that at that time. But there I was, and it happened. Now, the other one was a little more traditionally obvious that this guy's perving out. And this was with Dan. Now, Dan was a very problem child when it comes to the elders. He almost got deleted like twice because he was such a socially inept buffoon. He was always putting his foot in his mouth, embarrassing people, hurting people's feelings, offending people, super strict. He and his wife were both regular pioneers for a long time, and, you know, they didn't even have a TV. They didn't own a TV, and, you know, everything was all about, you know, he would have a Bible study with somebody, and it would go for 2 hours. He'd study with a witness kid, and he'd be there for 2 hours, and he'd try to get a free, you know, he'd get food. You know, he was just like, he was just, well, anyway, you know what? The man had other redeeming qualities. Intelligent guy, good sense of humor, but he had some odd features about him, and we can all probably name somebody from the hall, elder or otherwise, that probably fit into this mold. So we were meeting with a young fellow. Yeah, we were meeting with a young guy, and he says, you know, that he had sex with this other sister in the hall, you know, on the down low. And then Dan starts to ask specifics as to what kind of sex it was. And, you know, he's embarrassed. And then he says, well, you know, it was oral. She gave me oral. And then he says, you know, how many times did she do it? And, you know, and then she seems to like oral. And then I stopped and I said, Dan, why don't we move on? And he goes, well, I'm trying to determine the extent of and, you know, I had just had it up to here. You know, Dan and he was only like a couple of years older than me, and he hadn't been an elder, but maybe the same amount of time as me. I think it had been 2 or 3 years I'd been an elder at that point, maybe 4 years, I don't know. But I was like, no, Dan, we're done. Let's move on. And he was like, whoa, you know, he was like flabbergasted. But again, he was asking, you know, if a person admits that they had sex, you know, and you establish that they know what sex is, they know what it is, you know, there's no confusion. You don't have to keep asking intimate questions. Now, this is one of those points where you can go on other YouTube videos, Vimeo channels and videos. You can go on stories on the internet. There are many ladies that have escaped, that have told their story and have said, yes, the elders humiliated me. They asked me, you know, way too many questions. And I can testify to that this guy, you know, it was not normal. He was asking way too many questions. So those were the two instances I saw. You know, I'm sure there was other times when it was a little bit on that same kind of, you know, okay, they kept asking questions, wanting to know, you know, the exact number of times and where and you know, all of that. So yes, I would say that some of the elders, you know, they're probably, you know, look at some of these elderettes that are out there. I mean, would you want to sleep with them? I mean, you know, I'm not trying to be crude or anything, but I'm just saying some of these guys, they probably were not getting a lot of, they probably did not have a very exciting sexual life. It was probably an unhealthy sexual relationship in the marriage, which seems to be commonplace. Well, seems to be commonplace in a lot of marriages, but particularly JW marriages. Unfortunately, because of being repressed, some of them, not all, but some witnesses are raised up being told that sex is dirty, that it's bad, that, you know, it's all perverted, you know, even when you're married, you know, that it has to be missionary, that it, you know, that oral sex is perverted. Now, there's a big story I have about that one. Oh my goodness, about oral sex being perverted or not being perverted with Bob, my former father-in-law. I'll remind me if I forget, and I will tell you about that story because it was the height of hypocrisy. Anyways, I'll have to save that for another time. This is going to be a lot of elder recollection parts to these videos. But so yeah, are all Jehovah's Witness elders perverted? You know, I would like to say no, but some of them are. There's one elder by the name of Sam. You won't hear me talk about Sam a lot, and the reason is because Sam was one of the nicest guys I ever served with. Straight arrow, honest, friendly, kind, never wanted to disfellowship anybody. Certainly was not interested in hearing salacious details. Sam was a great guy. Interesting, he ended up fading out. Well, I don't know if that's the right word. He ended up getting some health issues. This was after I moved away. And then pretty much just slowed down and quit going to meetings. And I've heard through the grapevine, some of the brothers and sisters in my old hall would call me for several years. They'd call me up even after I wasn't an elder anymore. They would call me up for advice. I was kind of the un-elder. And they would ask me things, and then they would tell me, I'm worried about Sam. He doesn't hardly ever go to meetings anymore, and he stepped down and this and that. And I would like to think again, like I mentioned with the other fellow, Fred, that perhaps Sam woke up to something, but he's keeping it real close to his vest. I called him and I asked him a few things. I hinted around. Oh, this wouldn't have been too long ago either, maybe only a year before I was DF, so we're talking, 3 years ago. I hinted around with him. I said, Sam, I don't know if I can keep going to meetings anymore. And I'd heard you're not going to meetings. And he said, yeah, but, we have to just try our best. I've had this, this serious health issue. That's what's keeping me away. And so he stuck to that line. And I said, okay. And then I said, but, Sam, we saw some gnarly stuff. We just saw some really weird stuff. And he goes, yeah, we did. So I don't know. I just don't know. I think it's interesting, though, that so many elders and former elders are the ones that end up leaving the twoof because of that very fact, because they've seen so much gnarly stuff. So anyways, I'm going to end this one now, and I will be back. I'll be back with more. Stay good, have fun, and be happy, and continue to struggle against ignorance and against anyone that blocks freedom for others. See you later.
The order is rapidly fading, for the times they are a-changing.